Well, good morning. How is everybody? How many, just with a quick show of hands, how many of you have ever used a streaming app to listen to music, a podcast, or entertainment? Get your hands up. Okay, let's keep your hands up. No, keep your hands up if in the last 5 years you've experienced a glitch with that app. Well, not bad. Pretty good performance. When that happens, it's annoying, right? And it causes you to question, why have I chosen this app? Why have I chosen this brand? What am I doing here, etc. Often we move on to something else. We close one app, we open another. And for those of us who are running companies or building companies, we know that incidents that impact your customer experience are on the rise. And in fact, in the last year, they're up 43%. And we're talking about major incidents that stop you from doing what you're hoping to get done with the technology and services that you're using. As a leader, I can tell you that a major incident on average costs nearly $1 million for a company because we rely so heavily on technology at the edge or consumer applications to drive revenue, which drives our profitability and drives our operating margin and enables us to fund innovation and growth. So this has become a real business challenge, not just a technology challenge. And the reason I'm here, I'm Jennifer Tejada. As Martin mentioned, I'm the CEO of PagerDuty. We're a public company that's 19 years old that is really built around helping customers. More than 2/3 of the Fortune 100, half of the Fortune 500, half of Forbes AI 50 mature their operations and improve their operational resilience through automating your digital operations. That's a lot of techie buzzwords, but at the end of the day, we help your organizations run their tech more effectively in service of the customer experience that you are spending all your time and energy creating, building, and providing to those folks who are either trading their data, their information, or their hard-earned dollars for you for your products and services. And I'm thrilled to have with me today someone who I think of as a true expert as it relates to both innovation and operations and how you scale incredibly creative software engineering in service of end consumers to deliver a delightful experience. So with me today is Tyson Singer. Tyson is the VP of Technology and Platforms at Spotify, a little streaming app that many of you may be familiar with. Tyson has the unique challenge of worrying about, 650 million listeners on any given day. I mean, when things go wrong, a lot of people notice, so fair to say. And Tyson owns all of infrastructure, he owns technology strategy, he owns developer experience, and this is something that Tyson takes really seriously, and we see across our customer base, particularly large-scaled customers, that when you take developer experience seriously, you deliver better products and services. But it's a lot harder than it sounds. And so Tyson, while we're sitting here, I'm just curious, because you've been in the business for nearly 9 years.
Yep.
Over that 9 years, technology has evolved a lot. I feel like we need a word that lands somewhere between revolution and evolution. We've seen an incredible pace of change and an incredible amount of change. How have you thought about operations within your business, and how are you leveraging AI to improve the quality of the products and services that you deliver for your end customers?
Yeah, so I saw some hands go down on the, have you experienced...
Did that make you feel good?
Well, not when the hands went down, because most likely folks are actually using Spotify. But we do have quite a resilient system, and so we can share a little bit about what we've done in the past to make things resilient and what we're doing today, because things have changed a lot versus when I started at Spotify 9 years ago. I think everything first and foremost starts with the code. Mm-hmm. Bad code means more incidents, and you said incidents are on the rise. That's not happening at Spotify,
yeah.
And maybe there's some reasons behind that. So Right now what's going on is more and more folks are generating a larger portion of their code with agents. And that introduces maybe not poor quality code, but certainly higher variability of the code.
And more code.
and more code. So one of the things that has been very important sort of pre-AI revolution, and I think also during the AI revolution, has been to have a lot of standards in the process. When I joined Spotify, it was this context that a lot of people know, the Spotify model, which was basically chaos. Just to be blunt, there wasn't any standardization, there wasn't a whole lot of structure around how we did things, and so my job was to really try to introduce more structure and more standards into the software development process so that we had code that would be high quality and reliable. And a lot of what that meant was making the code more consistent, using the same frameworks, the same platforms and technology across the fleet of software. So today we have roughly in the order of 100 million lines of custom code, and dependent on probably about 1 billion lines of code beyond that. And you can't treat code like a pet anymore. You have to treat code like cattle. And that means you have to be able to transform code at scale.
Wait, did you catch that? You can't treat code like a pet. You need to treat it like cattle.
Yeah, so they said, back in the switch from, how we treated servers, right?
Yeah.
You used to treat servers like your pets, and then you're like, no, we have to do this all the same. We have to do that with our code as well. And so that means having tools that allow people to understand and set those standards and then transform code. So we use a tool that we call Backstage. It's our internal developer portal that helps us set all the standards across the code base and manage the code base in a very consistent fashion. And then we use an approach called fleet management to change the code at scale. And now in the context of having agentic capabilities and really high quality LLMs, we can change that 100 million of lines of code at scale to address issues that have impact on resiliency, security issues, and even cost issues. We can just go across the entire fleet and do transformations of code, which is important at scale.
And it's much faster than in the past.
It is much faster.
It's much more predictable.
It is more predictable
to some extent.
Yeah, with the LLMs, it's a little nerve-wracking when you're saying like let's change everything very fast. So the blast radius can be very large when you're doing these large-scale changes, but it can be very effective. So that's a little bit of the trade-off that we deal with between these.
And I'm sure when you showed up and announced that you were going to remove some of that autonomy and deploy standards, everybody was thrilled and just jumped right on board?
Not entirely, but we used a lot of change management techniques to help drive that change. So I was telling Jennifer the other night, we actually hired a marketing team to market to people internally.
So you hired, just a minute, you hired a marketing team to come work in platform engineering, not marketing
not
products
externally
to customers. And when you called your CFO and said, I need money to hire a marketing team inside dev, he went, oh yeah, no problem too?
Yeah, no, that was an awkward conversation. Okay. To say like, okay, no, I want a marketing team to go and market to other Spotifyers so that we can defragment our technology ecosystem so that we can have a resilient context. So I said everything starts with code, but then of course you go into operations. And this is where I think the really big opportunity is, and I think this is where PagerDuty has gotten something right and gotten the focus right that other folks haven't gotten to, because we're all talking about Cursor and all the other amazing tools to generate code, but in a company our size, engineers only spend a couple hours of coding every day. There is a lot of operational needs that have to go on. We run an ops and squad type model. We don't run an SRE model, so every developer is operating the code that they generate. Now they have 20, 30 different code components that they each have to be responsible for. And so every time there's an incident, it has not just the business impact, but it disrupts the flow of those developers. And so having tools that allow one to, say, identify the root cause of an incident and then remediate that quickly is really important. So that's some work that you're doing at PagerDuty. You want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
What we're really trying to do is, one, make life easier for the developer in service of driving a more resilient experience for the end user or the end consumer. And we do that leveraging AI and automation across the platform. We have a very large open API-centric ecosystem that connects to 700 of the most popular tools, observability environments, security environments, ticketing systems, cloud services, et cetera, that enables the platform to automatically detect potential issues, to consolidate and correlate and intelligently orchestrate those issues to the right teams or increasingly the right agents. Eventually, the vision is to be able to go from event, at capturing or detecting a potential issue, straight to code change and improving the operational resiliency of that environment before the end customer, the end user notices. So it's really the automation of digital operations in service of building a much more resilient organization. And your organization these days is generally underpinned by technology and increasingly AI. One thing that I know that continues to prove itself out on a daily basis is that people are imperfect, software and systems are imperfect, and therefore, the eventual outcome will be imperfect, and you have to be prepared or anticipate the unexpected in a world where there's a lot more volatility and a lot more change in the environment. And teams like Spotify that think ahead, that anticipate those challenges, are in a much better position to react and respond, but also learn and proactively prevent similar issues from reoccurring again.
Yeah, so I like how you frame that in terms of like imperfection. We have plenty of imperfection at Spotify, but what's also important is to identify where you are doing the right things. And so that's important not just for people. And so one of those techniques that I used when I started at Spotify was to really have an indoctrination program for every new employee on like, this is the golden path of doing things. This is the golden technology. This is the right way to do things. And today where that's evolved is we represent all of those golden paths and technology in Backstage. But it's not just for people anymore, because you have to inform the agents what's the right way to do things. So if you look at a ecosystem like Spotify, we may have like 50,000 different data pipelines. So great, now your LLMs are going and looking at that context, and they're just seeing gads and gads of garbage potentially. So you need them to see the good stuff, and so those are our golden data sets, and you have to have a way to flag and tell those agents and people what is the right context. So one of the things that we do is we have our own custom AI chatbot that's been trained on all of these golden standards and all the sort of context in our broader environment that ensures that not only a person, when they ask a question of the chatbot, gets a high-quality answer that nudges them in the direction of standardization and defragmentation of our ecosystem, but also that can happen for end users. And so that sounds very simple when you put it that way. It's like, okay, great, we're going to write another chatbot, but to actually train the chatbot with the right context, and so it nudges people and machines to do the right thing is a non-trivial thing. So that's part of what we've now provided externally in our external offering of Backstage. We call it Portal, and so we ship also this thing we call Ica, our chatbot, out as part of that product.
And we at PagerDuty, we're leveraging Backstage for onboarding and for standardization across our developer community, and also are contributing to Backstage. I think it's pretty interesting to see a consumer-focused company like Spotify really now building and distributing their own infrastructure solution to others, because often inside growing companies, small companies, we don't have the wherewithal to build our own infrastructure. So this is a bit of Spotify's AWS moment, right?
Yeah.
And you make it sound so easy. You're so matter of fact and so calm. But I was talking to Mike Hamilton a couple weeks ago. Mike is the CIO at Cloudflare, and he said, simple is never easy. That today's new solution is tomorrow's tech debt. So I wanted to ask you, does Spotify have any tech debt? How do you think about tech debt, and how are you leveraging AI to burn down some of that tech debt or manage it effectively?
We have no tech debt.
No tech debt, you're perfect.
Not at all.
Okay, it's over, let's go.
It's over. So we've been a company that has really valued speed for a long time. And as I mentioned before, when I joined Spotify, it was a bit chaotic. We had this overemphasis on autonomy. And so putting in all of these structures have been super important across the organization, and really sticking with that and making some hard trade-offs along the way. So we decided to go from our on-premise to a cloud provider. And we're very, very large scaled operation now, but we still only have one cloud provider because it creates simplicity and structure for the organization off of sort of what to leverage. And then just having things over and over, standards, golden paths, et cetera, has been very important to managing this and allow us to do those fleet shifts that I've talked about as well. So we measure all of that in a few different ways. We actually poll people to ask them, like, how do you feel about the level of tech debt we have? And so we track that across department and whatnot, and that's a flag if we're like, oh, like we're intentionally putting too much tech debt into the system. The engineers will start to tell us. But then we also have a plugin that we have inside of our Backstage ecosystem called Soundcheck, all these soundy things, so Spotify, that gives you a very clear indicator when you've kind of gone off that golden path and you're not adhering to the operational practices or other practices that are important to resilience, which we talked about before. So you can correct those. Really important to visualize. But again, it's also important for the agents so that they can understand when you've gone off the rails and try to correct.
So we could probably spend the next 3 hours talking about the cool new features that Spotify is building. I like the AI DJ feature myself. But I'm curious, how did you get to a decision to commercialize Backstage? Like, you could have kept that to yourself. It becomes a competitive advantage, maybe a competitive moat for others. And it's a big decision because you have been a business-to-consumer company for the entire time the business has been in existence, correct?
Yep, that's right. I see we are out of time. I will try to make this answer short. One, we just realized that we were hitting all these problems of large scale before everybody else, and that we had something quite unique and powerful in terms of how to solve that problem that we expected everybody else would need, and that's played out. We released the product as an open source product, grew like wildfire, and then we started to realize that people didn't just need the framework, but they needed a prepackaged version of that so that they didn't have to like build up their own ecosystem very quickly. The other thing is that music is actually not a high margin business. And so when you think about it from a business perspective, SaaS-based businesses tend to be higher margin businesses, and so like any business, we're looking to figure out how to improve margins over time as well.
That's awesome. Well, you're leading the way in terms of thinking about not only how you improve your operations today in service of that great customer experience, but what the vision is for the future and how others can leverage your learnings. You've always been very generous with your learnings as we've worked together over several years, and I just really appreciate you being here with me on the stage at Raise. So thank you, Tyson. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Great.